Okay, so today we're going to try to set up a computer, specifically a Mac OSX computer, to be a software development computer. So specifically, we're going to try to set up Fortran. We're going to set up MPI, which is Message Passing Interface, and we're going to set up Python so we can plot results for our numerical simulations. So let's get going. The first thing that we're going to actually do is install this software called macports. Macports lets you basically install packages, and using that package manager, we're going to actually do most of the stuff that we want to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is download macports. So the way that we do that is we open up Safari, we do a Google search for Mac OSX macports. Yes, and there's the macports project, and it actually went straight to the installing macports thing, and you have to know which version of Mac OSX you have. So you can do that up here through About This Mac, and you can see that I have Big Sur, and that's 11, version 11. So Big Sur version 11, and so you want to allow the download, and then it probably downloaded there. And then, so now we just hit continue, we accept the license, we install. Okay, you need to be super user to do this or have administrative privileges. And so hopefully you have administrator privileges on your computer. And I do. So I'm installing the software. Okay, so macports was successful. We can move that to the trash. Okay. So macports is typically installed somewhere, and we use it from the command line. Pretty much everything that we're going to do is command line. And so we're going to kill Safari, and then utilities, and then to the terminal app. And terminal is going to actually open up a window here. Yours will probably be white with black writing. And so you can change that in the preferences if you'd like, and you can change it to be whatever color you want. You can make the terminal font bigger by hitting Command Shift Plus, and we'll make that bigger so you all can see that. And it's sort of hazy, so we're going to close that. And then we're going to use terminal fairly often. Yes. So port install software in opt local bin port. Okay, so that's the software. Oops. Okay, so we are basically going to use this command a lot, and we'll probably end up wanting to do adding this to our path, but right now we're not going to bother. So let's actually try to install something. Sudo. So sudo is super user do, which means that you're basically becoming an administrator on your computer, and that allows you to actually install this software. So port, we're going to do something like port install GCC 10, because GCC is a compiler that we want, and 10 is the version. And let's cross our fingers and hope that this works. It will ask you for password, and then hopefully you have administrator password on there. And then it wants to install a bunch of extra stuff. And so the default is usually yes, because all of these dependencies are needed. And so you can just hit return, and it will do all of this stuff. And it will take a while to actually do this. But all of this stuff should be pre-compiled, so it's actually just downloading it and putting it in the right place. So it shouldn't really have to do a bunch of compiling or anything like that. So that's good. And GCC is fairly large, so you can see that it's trying to actually download this from packages macports.org, and it takes a little while, and I'm at home, and so it takes even longer. But if you are actually hooked up to fast wireless internet or fast wired internet, then it might be much faster. Okay, so now we have GCC installed, and so if we look into opt local bin, you can see that we have a bunch of stuff added, and we have a G-Fortran compiler, we have GCC installed, G-Fortran is G-Fortran MP10. All right, so we're gonna have to make a note of that at some point, but right now this is gonna be okay. So let's actually install some more stuff. So we need to install Open MPI, and actually I'm not sure which version it has, so we're gonna do a list, and we're gonna pipe that to grep -i MPI. And we're going to see what MPI it has. So it has MPI-CH, which is one type, and it has OpenMPI GCC10, which is what we're going to do. We could grab MPI-CH GCC10. These two are pretty much interchangeable. They're two just different flavors of MPI, so it doesn't really matter what you get. But we will just grab the OpenMPI, and CLang is what comes default on the Mac. It's C language, and that's just the compiler that they install on the Mac. But we have GCC installed now, and we installed GCC 10, and so we're just going to install that one. To make OpenMPI GCC 10 wrapper the default, so that's actually what we want, is this sudo port. So when we want to run MPI, we want to use this version of it, and so we can just run this command, and it will. It still doesn't know the port command, so we have to actually type out the port command, which is opt local bin. There you go. All right, fantastic. Okay, so now what do we need? So now we are going to need some sort of a Python code for actually plotting and stuff. And so we can use port once again to install Python. And if you want to see what versions of Python they have, there could be a million of them. Yeah, and so there are a million things here, and so the question is, what do we actually need? I want to install Python 3.8. I don't know why. There is 3.10, there's 3.9, there's 3.11. But I'm going to install 3.8 and start using that instead of anything else. And so let's try to install Python 3.8. Okay, so we want to sudo install port select, port install Python 3.8. And so, yeah, so it's the same thing. We basically just do this, except we have to change our port command. Okay, so this is going to be opt local bin. Okay, so now if we, in theory, type Python, we should get that version, but I don't think that this is the right version. As you can see, this is version 2.7. So this is the version that came with the computer. So the version that we want is apt local bin Python. There we go. So now this is using 3.8, but it's actually using CLang, but that's okay. That's all right for now. All right, so that's good that we have that installed. But now we need some other stuff. We need matplotlib. And actually, let's install Emacs really quick because Emacs is the best. And I don't know what they call it, Emacs. Maybe it's just Emacs. That's cool. All right. Let's install Emacs or Xemacs. Either one is fine. You can install Emacs or Xemacs. So let's install Xemacs just to see what that is. Oh no, an error. Oh no, failed. Okay. Let's check to see whether it actually installed it. It probably did not. Opt local bin star Emacs star. Nope. All right, let's do port install Emacs instead. And we'll just sort of hope that works. All right, so it installed Emacs, so we should be able to do opt local bin Emacs. So that installs it actually in the window. Not the greatest, because then you have to actually like know what you're doing, and there's no like editing. You can't run it with a mouse or anything like that, but that's fine. That's all right. We can live with that. Okay, so now the last things that we need are a bunch of stuff for Python. So I am going to look at matplotlib because that is needed for Python. And I think, yes, we want the 3.8 version of matplotlib, and that will have a bunch of dependencies. And that should hopefully catch things like NumPy and SciPy and some of the other stuff. We'll see if that actually works. There should be a lot of dependencies here. Okay, yes, so it wants to install BLAS, which is good. It wants to install a bunch of Python things like NumPy, which is good. It wants to install 3.10, which is just weird. Why would it need 3.10? All of these things are 3.8, so that's actually just fine. I think that this is just fine, so we'll say okay, and then we'll wait for several minutes to actually have it install all this stuff. While it's actually doing that, why don't we set this aside, and why don't we do a new window? Oh, there's the white window, but let's do a homebrew. There we go, homebrew. Okay, so I am going to add in the opt local bin into my path, and this is going to actually be different for some things than what you're probably used to. I'm using the shell tcsh. Oh wait, let me make this bigger so you can see. Okay. And so I'm going to do opt local bin Emacs .tcsh.cshrc, and this is all of my crap that I have, and I'm going to add in to here. I have a bunch of stuff a bunch of this stuff is just old stuff, and it's actually not even for a Mac, because you can see that it's for a Linux box, because Linux boxes have home as your home directory, and Macs have user as its home directory. So I don't really care too much about that, but I'm just going to add in opt local bin in here, and then you put a semicolon like that, and then you save it, you exit, and then you source .cshrc. Now if you type Emacs, it will just use Emacs. And if you type which Python, it will be the opt local bin Python. And so you can see that this over here, it has installed some other crap, including Python 10, and we want to ignore Python 10. And so let's actually do some of these commands. I don't know what Python is or anything like that. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to source tilde.cshrc, and now I can do port. Yes. Exit. Okay, so that actually works. Okay, so now if we do Python, we should be able to do import numpy, and that should work, and import matplotlib. We should spell it right, plotlib. Import, let's see, what are some of the other things that we use? Blob, okay. Import date time, we use that all the time. All right, so a bunch of this stuff is good. So that I think that we're actually set there. And now I think that we are actually ready to try to compile some stuff. So what happens if we do G-Fortran? Okay, so this is irritating to me because the code is actually called G-Fortran MP10. I don't like that. I want it to be called G-Fortran. And then if we do MPI F90, that actually works, so that's good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a link to basically make it so G-Fortran is a real command. And there are there's a bunch of different ways of doing this. In Unix, there's a million ways of doing everything. But we can be super user, and so let's fix it for all of the users. So the way that you can do that is you can go to opt local bin, and you can see all of this stuff that we have actually installed. We have installed the vast majority of this stuff. And so we can look and see that there's a G-Fortran, Fortran, once again, can't spell. So there is a G-Fortran, but it's -mp-10. And so what we can do is we can do sudo ln-s G-Fortran to G-Fortran, and we can just take off that. And it will ask us for a password. And now if we do an ls-l G-Fortran, it will basically show that both are available. And then if we go over here, we have to tell the computer that something has changed. And now if we tell it G-Fortran, then there we go, it works. And then the same thing with GCC, ls-la GCC star. And once again, it's like GCC MP10. I don't know what that is. So let's do a sudo ln minus s GCC minus MP minus 10. Is this MP10 to GCC? Okay, and then we have ls MPI F90. Yes, and MPI CC, that all exists. So we're good. And basically we're all set up now. And so we can actually start doing stuff. We have Emacs installed, we have MacPort installed, we have GCC installed, and we have MPI installed. So we could actually download and do some stuff now, now that the computer is all set up. So let's actually move on to doing that in the next video. So I think that for now we'll be done with this video, and we'll start another video to show you how to download some science codes and actually compile them. Thank you very much for watching.